All right, the time is now 6 p.m. Our regular city council meeting for August 6, 2024 is now in session. First on the agenda is Councilmember Hayward will lead us with the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the flags of the United States and the state of Texas. Please rise.
Before I pray, I'm going to read a scripture that had been coming to my mind. And I know we're not in exile, but it's kind of appropriate. Jeremiah 29:7. Seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf. For its welfare, you will have welfare. Now I will pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to arrive here safely. Lord, as we gather here today to discuss important matters regarding our city, to include the budget and tax rates, I ask for your guidance and wisdom to help us make the sound decisions that will benefit our community as a whole. I pray for us to have clarity and unity as we work together to set a preliminary tax rate and the budget that is fair and just for all residents. Lord, even if we don't agree, keep us harmonious to one another. I pray the decisions made here tonight will reflect thy will. Lord, I also come asking for your protection and strength for all those who serve our community tirelessly each day. Give them wisdom and support as they carry out their duties and responsibilities. Let them feel and know that they are truly appreciated. Please keep them safe. Lord, may your presence be felt in every corner of the city of Schertz, guiding and watching over our residents, first responders, and city staff. And Father, as we leave here tonight, put your armor protection around us and keep us safe until we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Councilmember Hayward. Our first item of discussion is the appointment of the Mayor Pro Temp, discussion, consideration, and/or action regarding the confirmation, appointment, and the election of the Mayor Pro Temp. Now, the Mayor Pro Temp is a member of the City Council who performs the duties during the mayor's incapacity or absence. The Mayor Pro Tem is elected by the majority of the vote of this council among its own membership. The Mayor Pro Tem retains the right to vote on any matters before the council while performing the duties as the mayor. The Mayor Pro Tem's term is 6 months. Mayor Pro Tem Paul Macaluso, thank you for performing these duties from February 2024 through August 2024. And based on the procedures for consideration and appointment for the next Mayor Pro Temp is Councilmember Gibson. The term from August 2024 through January 2025. With that, Council, the floor is open for discussion.
I make a motion for Councilmember Gibson to be Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made to appoint Councilmember Gibson as our next Mayor Pro Tem for the term from August 2024 to January 2025, and second by Councilmember Watson. Council, any other comments? If none, if you can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 5 ayes, no objections, motion passes. All right. Congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Gibson. Well, not quite yet. We still have to take the oath. Ms. Edmondson, if you please administer the oath.
I, Tiffany Gibson,
I, Tiffany Gibson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the City of Schertz Mayor Pro Tem
of the City of Schertz Mayor Pro Tem
and will do the best to my ability
and will do the best to my abilities
to preserve, protect, and defend
to preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the laws of the United States
the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Once again, congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Gibson. All right, we'll move on. We have the employee introductions. We'll start off with the City Manager's Office, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We have Zinnia Reed. She affectionately known as Z, and she is our new administrative assistant in the city manager's office. Zinnia was raised in Miami, Florida by an Army brat and an Army vet. She's the oldest of 5 siblings and has very creative at heart and loves the performing arts. Did it all the way, performing and visual arts, all the way through her childhood. And she's very curious, and which has led her to live several cities around the country and worked in various industries. She started out in the apparel/fashion industry while attending the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And she most recently worked for the city of Albuquerque in the aviation department until she had this amazing opportunity to come to Texas and work with us at the city of Schertz. So she really aspires to contribute significantly to the team and eventually in the city. She has family sprinkled around the East Coast of Florida and popping up in Texas. She's also a notary and an IAAP member, which is the International Association of Administrative Professionals. But she considers herself a Dora the Explorer, loving road trips and everything musical, fashion, art, space, and humorous. So this is Zinnia. Z.
I want to thank everybody. I'm a little nervous up here, but I just want to thank the mayor and everybody who's a part of the whole team of the City of Schertz for welcoming me and being such a supportive team. And I look forward to my road being less clunky and being able to positively contribute to the city, to my team, and to everybody that has a part in this. I'm really excited and I'm really nervous, but I'm really just looking forward. Thank you.
Welcome to our team. Next, we have EMS.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Williams. Tonight I have 5 new employees to introduce to you out of the EMS department. First up, Jaden Cifuentes. He's a part-time paramedic with us. He started with the city on May 20th of 24. He grew up in the Fredericksburg area and currently resides in New Braunfels. He attended the University of Texas Health Science Center to obtain his paramedic certification and has been working as a paramedic for about 8 years. Jaden still works full-time for the Fredericksburg Fire Department, and we're glad to have him as part of our team. So welcome to Jaden.
Happy to be here. Look forward to the opportunity. Yeah, just real excited. Thank you.
Welcome.
Next up for you, I have Joseph Hernandez, also a part-time paramedic with us. He also started in May. He grew up in Clovis, California, and currently resides on the west side of San Antonio. He's currently continuing his education at the University of the Incarnate Word and obtained his paramedic certification through Joint Operations Medical Training Center in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Joseph's been an EMT since 2003, nationally registered paramedic since 2011, and a tactical paramedic since 2021. He has 3 children, Willow, Alder, and Ava. So we want to welcome Joseph to the city.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you so much for this opportunity. I've been thoroughly impressed so far with the care and effort that is put into selecting and training your new hires, and I'm really glad to be a part of this, so thank you all very much.
Welcome aboard.
Next up, I have Charles Moses. He goes by Josh. He is a full-time EMT with us. He grew up in the Cibolo and New Braunfels areas, still resides here in the area currently. He attended the Schertz EMS Training Academy to obtain his EMT certification and has now been in EMS for about 12 years. He served with the Lake Dunlap Fire Department and gained crucial experience running EMS and fire calls. So welcome to Josh.
Evening, everyone. Hired on a couple months ago, and I think there's not a day gone by where I haven't taken a moment to contemplate how absolutely grateful I am to be here on with Schertz EMS. The field training program was really extraordinary. Learned a lot, looking forward to learning a lot more, and again, real proud to be here, real happy to be here. Thank y'all.
Well, welcome to our team.
Next up for you, I have Jason Newman. He is also a full-time EMT with us. He grew up in a small town of La Crosse, Texas, now resides on the northwest side of San Antonio. Jason graduated from Sam Houston State University in 2023 with a bachelor's degree in Homeland Security Studies, but he immediately decided to go to EMT school at UT Health and obtain that certification. He's been an EMT now for the last 8 months. He recently got engaged and will be getting married in Bernie in March of 2025. He has 2 huskies, which are like his kids, toddlers by age, but they act like teenagers. And he is the founding father for the Lambda chapter of Beta Upsilon Chi, his college fraternity. So welcome to Jason.
Eat 'em up cats.
Thank you all for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to serve, and it's a pleasure to serve this community in particular. Thank you all.
Welcome to our team.
And last but not least, we have Brett Brewer. He is recently a full-time EMT with us. He began also in May of 24. He grew up in the Jordanton area and currently lives in Seguin. Brett obtained his EMT certification through the Texas EMT School. Schertz EMS is Brett's first full-time EMS job, but he's been active with the New Berlin Volunteer Fire Department for some years. Brett currently has no children, but is very family-oriented. He likes to play pickleball and is on multiple recreational adult basketball teams. He has a passion for fitness, professional sports, and long-distance running. So welcome to Brett.
First and foremost, I want to thank the City Council for having us here. So far, it's been a really big family ever since I've came here to Schertz, and I really love it in Schertz, and the FTEP program so far has been phenomenal. Other than that, I just want to thank y'all for y'all's time and showing up today.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all, gentlemen, for being part of our team. Next, we have facilities.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to Matthew Murrow. He is our new HVAC apprentice. Matt has been in the heating, ventilation, air conditioning industry for 2 years now. He just hit 2 years this month. He has been with us for 4 weeks now, and that short period of time, he's already made a big impact on our team. Has been very productive. Matt is an avid outdoorsman and says he likes to spend his free time hiking, hunting, and fishing, and he is from the San Antonio area.
I just wanted to thank y'all for the opportunity to provide my services, and I hope that we can have a very long and mutually beneficial relationship.
Welcome to our team. Next, we have finance.
Hi, I'd like you to introduce you to Claire, our new accountant. She's been with us since April. Before here, she did work at a CPA office in San Antonio. She's our new accountant. This 2 weeks, she's been doing all the accounting work as the other accountant has been on vacation. So she's only been here since April, so she's done quite a bit for us in the last couple weeks.
Mike's yours. No. Well, welcome. Next is Parks and Recs.
Council, Mayor Pro Temp, Mr. Mayor, Steve. I get the pleasure of introducing Darianne Douglas, our newest maintenance worker. She's our part-time maintenance worker. You'll see a lot on the weekends. She grew up in the San Antonio area, went to a small high school called East Central, where the mascots were the Hornets. She loves to garden, the outdoors, spending time with animals and nature. She's worked most of her career in conservation work and constructing trails, which is handy for us. She's already making a positive impact in our parks, and I was trying to start a trend today, so I was going to say her favorite ice cream is strawberry, just so you know.
Thank you. I'm really grateful to be here.
Welcome aboard. Next, we have police.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Williams, and staff. I'm Lieutenant LaCour, and tonight I have the pleasure of introducing, where'd they go? There they are. We have Astrid Jaime with us first. I'm going to introduce you to. Astrid came on with us as a public safety communications officer on May 6th of this year. She comes to us from the Via Metropolitan Transit Police Department, where she worked security and she also dispatched. Her parents are both police officers, and one works for the Via Metropolitan and the other works for SAISD. She has a 2-year-old son named Maverick, and one of her favorite hobbies is Star Wars. Revenge of the Sith is her favorite. She says she likes the plot. I don't know, Kylo Ren, I don't know. All right, and this is Astrid Jaime.
I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to work here, and I look forward to a very long career with the city of Schertz.
Well, welcome.
Next, we have Chase Del Bosque with us this evening. He was born in San Antonio. He comes to us from the San Antonio Airport Police Department. He has 6+ years experience. He has his associate's degree, and he will graduate with his bachelor's degree from Wayland Baptist this October. He has a dog named Pepper. He put that first before his kids. I don't know why, but he did. He has a daughter named Aubrey who he spends most of his free time with. They like to wrestle and watch the show Bluey. He likes to travel, and tomorrow or Thursday, he's going to New York for a comedy show. So he is true to his word that he likes to travel. This is Chase Del Bosque.
Thank you guys for having me. I look forward to a long career with the city of Schertz. Thank you.
Welcome to our team. And then next we have Public Works.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'd like to introduce you newest member of our streets team, Harris Atielano Fuentes. Mr. Fuentes was born in Fajardo, Puerto Rico. He attended Casiano Cepeda High School. During his career, he's been a barber, carpenter's helper. He graduated from the TDCJ as a Max State Prison Corrections Officer, and he's got a background in supervision in some of his previous jobs. He's married since 2010, still on his honeymoon. And he has 2 kids. He has 1 daughter, 19, and 1 boy who is 5 years old. and he also likes to assist with the church with his wife and his son. He spends all his free time with his family, and his hobbies are coloring in coloring books, reading the Bible, and reading things that will benefit his life and loved ones. And he's also a Cowboys sports fanatic, so I had to throw that in. I'd like to introduce you, Harris Atielon Fuentes.
I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to work for this great community, and let's make it a career.
Well, welcome to our team.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce the newest member of our wastewater department, Marvin Lopez. He's a worker one now. He's born in San Angelo, raised in San Antonio, attended Roosevelt High School where he won a second place art competition. Currently taking one day at a time. His large family of 6, 2 dogs. He loves fishing, hiking, exercising, and dates with his wife.
Just grateful to be working. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, we'll move on to city events and announcements. Announcements of upcoming events. Ms. Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So just a couple items on this week. First, on Saturday, August 17th, Parks and Rec is going to be having a Big Kids Fest, so an adult field day from 1 to 4 p.m. at Pickerel Park, 21 and up, and register at schertz.com/recreation. And then the next one on here, and the last one, is our next city council meeting, August 20th at 6 o'clock here in the council chambers. Thanks.
Thank you. Announcements and recognitions by our city manager, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Get to do one of the things that I really like to do, and it's talk about the promotions within the city, and loving to see our employees make that next move in their career. So first we have David Arce he moved from Street Worker 1 to Street Worker 2, and Austin Redmond was promoted from EMT to paramedic, and Tanner Buckley, as well as Miranda Horak, were all promoted from EMT to paramedic. Also, if you noticed, coming in, we've got our brand new pothole truck is in town and on the streets and in service. So I'm really excited. I'm sure everybody's excited about that. We're going to really get after these streets. As you know, it's a top priority for street maintenance to fill those potholes, smooth things out, and get our projects done. And this is going to help us a long way. Had the opportunity to go out there and play with the toys and help fill a pothole today, so it was a good time. In the EMS department, the child and babysitting safety class, they had a great summer turnout this year, and they have one more date for the summer, so you can register if you go to their website. It'll be Saturday, August 24th. The Teen Police Academy wrapped up, and they had their last academy was July 19th. And it was just an exciting time. All the kids that were involved got an opportunity to run the obstacle course, as well as do a lot of other things and see how they operate. And that is all, Mayor. That are all the announcements I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Announcements and recognitions by the mayor. Just one announcement. Tomorrow, we celebrate and we honor National Purple Heart Day, a day dedicated to the recognition of the brave men and women of the armed forces who have been wounded, and some paid the ultimate sacrifice in service of our country. The Purple Heart represents the courage, the sacrifice, and the unwavering dedication of our military heroes. In Schertz, we are proud of our veterans and their families. And thank you to everyone who has served this proud nation. Thank you. With that, we'll move on. And we have next is the hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the City Council. Each person is limited to 3 minutes, and we ask before addressing the council, for the record, please state your name and address. Mayor Pro Tem, please call our first speaker.
Before I call the first speaker, can I thank my family?
Yes.
Thank you so much for showing up today, and I'm so appreciative on behalf of the City of Schertz to have you in my life, and thank you. First, here in a residence, we have Maggie Titterington.
Good evening, Maggie Titterington, 1730 Schertz Parkway. Just giving you some Chamber of Commerce updates. This Friday, we actually have 3 ribbon cuttings left for the month for the city of Schertz. We have a total of 6 left for the entire month of August, and we've already done 3 at the beginning. So it's a busy and a great time for commerce in all 3 cities happening right now. On Friday, the 9th, Adobo Throwdown is happening not only at the Schertz Civic Center, but we're going to do a ribbon cutting for them at the Kramer House. That's at 10 a.m., and that's going to kind of kick it off for the chefs and all the culinary wonderful treats they're going to be having. On the 19th, we have Bougie Bowl opening at 4 p.m., and that'll be our ribbon cutting time. And on, this is funny, I just noticed this is like a food theme. The 28th is Culinary Concierge, so we got a lot of food stuff going on. That's at 10 a.m., and that'll also be at the Kramer House. We have our last smoothie summer celebration at Tropical Smoothie Cafe, and that's on the 30th of August from 7:30 to 9. A lot of you have shown up and talked to some of our business members that have come, and so thank you very much. So come out, enjoy a free smoothie and some breakfast treats. And on a different hat, went out to Movies in the Park at Cypress Park. Schertz Historical Preservation Society was out there doing a trivia night, which was really great. There was 19 families that participated and won great prizes, and want to thank Waterburger at 3009 for donating a $250 Waterburger basket with a whole bunch of just really cool swag. We also have new shirts that say "You're cut off," and then the back of the shirt has why it says that, and it's the history of shirts, but they're really cute shirts, and we have those if anybody would like to have one. But just want to thank Brian James and Parks and Recs for coming out there. It was a beautiful night. There was a whole bunch of families out there, and if you all have not done Movies in the Park, y'all need to make plans to do one. But that's all I have. Thank you.
That concludes our.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on. Consent agenda items are considered self-explanatory, and information packets are provided to the council and available for public viewing. These items require no separate discussion unless requested by council. Item number 2, minutes. Item number 3, appointment, reappointments, resignations of the boards, commissions, and committees. Item number 4, resolution number 24R88. And item number 5, resolution number 24R91. Council, do any of these need to be removed for separate action? See no comment. If there's a motion to approve consent agenda items number 2 through 5.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Gibson and second by Councilmember Brown. Council, any comments? You can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 6 ayes, no objections. Motion passes. We'll move on to discussion items. Item number 6, resolution number 24R86, authorizing the purchase of a fire apparatus brush truck. Okay, who's got this one?
Chief Rogers?
Chief?
Or Jessica?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. How are you? Just a quick, brief discussion on the brush truck is the goal here was to diversify our fleet a little bit. We have a lot of the same types of apparatus, and as we grow, we have a lot less wildland area. And the area that we do have is much smaller, so we wanted to buy something a little more maneuverable, additionally, a lot lighter weight. So we went with a high-pressure system with less water, which equates to the same amount of firefighting power and sometimes even more depending on the setting without an additional 2,000 pounds sitting on the back. We still have the same other apparatus, the Type 6, the National Wildfire standards are out there. This particular unit will not be a deployable asset. It will remain in our region and here all the time.
All right. Thank you, Chief. All right, Council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Davis.
Well, it's not a tractor-drawn aerial, but I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve 24R86.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilmember Davis and second by Councilmember Watson. Council, any other comments? If none, if you can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 6 yeas, no objections, motion passes. Next is item number 7, resolution number 24R89. A resolution by the City of Schertz authorizing increasing the fiscal year 2023-2024 and fiscal year 2024 and 2025 and the fiscal year 2025 and 2026 not to exceed expenditures with prime controls for all cicada services.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, City Manager. This resolution is to increase the not-to-exceed amount of the current on-call SCADA contract. We had originally made the not-to-exceed amount of $100,000. However, some of the projects and services that we have taken on this year are forecast to near or exceed that amount. So to maintain the use of it, both for finishing these projects, incidental things, and emergencies, we'd like to increase it by $50,000 to $150,000 through the duration of the contract through 2025-26.
All right, thank you. All right, Council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Hayward.
Make a motion.
Motion's been made to approve resolution number 24R89. Council, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second's been made by Councilmember Hayward. Councilmember Hayward made the motion, second by Councilmember Watson. Council, any other comments? You can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 7 yeas, no objection, motion passes. Thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on. We have a public hearing, ordinance number 24S-144. Conduct a public hearing and consider a request for a special use permit to allow a monopole telecommunications facility on approximately 1 acre of land known as Guadalupe County Property Identification Number 47083, more specifically known as 120 Windy Meadows Drive, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. First reading. Mr. Haas, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Ms. Williams. Ordinance 24S-144, Windy Meadows Specific Use Permit, Samuel Haas, Senior Planner. So to get our bearings here, the site is 1 acre. It is outlined here in green. 1518 is off over here to the west, and this is Windy Meadows Drive just to the north of the property. There's currently a commercial business on the property and in its zone General Business District 2. Here's just a map showing the zoning district there. The property's outlined in yellow to the north, right away, and all the businesses, all the properties surrounding it is General Business 2 as well. Commercial uses, also a City of Schertz use. So on June 24th, 2024, a total of 10 public hearing notices were sent out. So far, we have seen 1 response neutral. 1 sign was posted on the property, and a public hearing notice was published in the San Antonio Express on July 17th. So the applicant is proposing to construct a 120-foot monopole telecommunication facility at the rear of the approximately 1 acre of land. Per UDC Article 8, Section 2186G, the placement of the antenna facility is categorized as full commercial. This is what the property 120 Windy Meadows is. As you can see right here, according, this is coming from the UDC. This requires a specific use permit, which is why we're here today. This exhibit was provided to staff by the applicant, and this is the property, and they're proposing to put the monopole back here in the rear of the property. Here are the proposed elevations. Right here to the right, you can see the monopole. It goes up to, with the lightning rod, 120 feet. So when evaluating specific use permits, staff uses UDC Section 21511D criteria for approval. Let's go through these one at a time. So the proposed use at the specific location is consistent with the policies embodied in the adopted comprehensive land plan. So the comprehensive plan donates this area as industrial hub. The primary use of the property is not changing. However, the comprehensive land plan does state that uses should be generally compatible with JBSA. Staff feels that the placement of this tower poses a risk to the mission, particularly with the new aircraft incoming, the T-7A. And in this case, it is not compatible with the policies of the Comprehensive Land Plan and being compatible with JBSA. Here's sort of a map here showing the land use category. Here you can see industrial hub surrounds this whole area. Number two, the proposed use is consistent with the general purpose and intent of the applicable zoning district regulations. So GB2 is intended for the development of non-residential and light industrial uses. In general, the telecommunication tower is compatible with the commercial and light industrial uses permitted. Number three, the proposed use is compatible with, preserves the character and integrity of adjacent developments and neighborhoods, and includes improvements either on site or within the public rights of way to mitigate development-related adverse impacts such as safety, traffic, noise, odors, visual nuisances, drainage, and other similar adverse effects to adjacent developments and neighborhoods. So UDC section 2186A states that a telecommunication antenna shall encourage operators of antenna facilities and antennas to locate them in areas where adverse impact on the community is minimal. Locating the antenna facility in the area that is surrounded by higher intensity commercial and some light industrial uses might seem compatible, but a tall monopole cell tower is not consistent with the intent of the air installation compatibility use zone. That document has recommendations that be incorporated into local community planning programs in order to maintain the airfield's operational requirements while minimizing the impact to residents in the surrounding community. So staff does not feel that this is abiding by the ACUs due to the tall monopole being in the flight path. The proposed use does not generate pedestrian or vehicle traffic that will be conflicted with the neighborhood. This proposed telecommunication will not generate traffic. The proposed use incorporates roadway adjustments, traffic control devices, and access restrictions to control traffic flow, divert traffic. The telecommunication tower will not generate traffic, so no traffic mitigation methods are required. The proposed use incorporates features to minimize adverse effects, including visual impacts on adjacent properties. The proposed tower will have to meet all site requirements in Article 9. Those are in place to ensure that adverse effects are mitigated and minimized. And the proposed use meets the standards of the zoning district to the extent that variations of such standards have been requested. The development will have to meet all dimensional design requirements of GB2 and has not requested any variations. The proposed use promotes the health, safety, general welfare of the city and the safe, orderly, efficient, healthful development of the city. So UDC 21862J requires the city to consider the appropriateness of a location of this facility. So this particular location is in the approach departure corridor of the East JBSA Randolph runway and lies in the APC-1. It is also in the critical zone of the bird aircraft strike hazard. The BASH mitigation plan that the applicant provided, JBSA actually provided some comments on their mitigation plan. And so they had 4 essential elements to their mitigation plan: raptor decoys, sonic deterrence, bird spikes, and wind-powered moving deterrence. And JBSA commented on those mitigation efforts and said that for raptor decoys, they lose their effectiveness quickly if not moved frequently and paired with lethal take. For sonic deterrence, birds habituate easily if noise is continuous or emitted on a predictable routine. For the bird spikes, they're usually only effective against smaller birds and require frequent maintenance. And for the wind-powered moving deterrence, birds habituate easily and are only effective on windy days. Number 9, no application made under these provisions will receive final until all back taxes are owed. This does not impact the first reading of City Council. And number 10, other criteria at the discretion of the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council are deemed relevant and important in the consideration of the specific use permit. So staff hasn't received any special consideration from City Council. The Federal Aviation Administration and JBSA reviewed this proposal and submitted a letter of no objection to staff. However, a letter of no objection does not equal no risk. And it is to staff's understanding that these evaluations are very technical and that, if you can read between the lines a little bit, you can kind of see that there is some inherent risk in this, and just because it's no objection doesn't mean there's no safety risk involved. And on July 3rd, 2024, the Planning and Zoning Commission did hold a public hearing and approve this with a 6-0 vote. However, at the time, staff had taken the letter of no objection and determined that we should recommend approval to this item, but we have since changed our position after further consideration and deliberation, and also with further contact with JBSA. So, while the proposed tower may be compatible with the surrounding uses and the particular zoning district, this specific location presents a unique case. It's in the direct flight path of the east runway. It's in the BASH critical zone. The mitigation measures are risky, and the safety risk of this proposal is too great. Staff is recommending denial of ordinance 24S144, the specific use permit to allow a telecommunication tower at the subject property. And the applicant is here to give a presentation on this item.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ariel Stouter. I am Senior Zoning and Permitting Specialist for Fullerton Engineering, and I am here on behalf of Verizon Wireless. And I put together this presentation to highlight a couple things that I had put together in the application. All of these are documents that were submitted with the application. I just wanted to highlight the importance of the proposed tower and extending Verizon's coverage in the area. We chose this particular site to be able to expand on what's existing and to make sure that there's coverage for any usage, especially if there is no coverage. It would extend and speed up and improve the coverage for whoever is in the area. All right. The first slide, this is the original search ring that Verizon had given us to look for suitable candidates. And if you will look within the red search ring, there are 2 red arrows. And those are the original candidates that we had considered. Unfortunately, due to various reasons, it did not pan out with our leasing team. So we had to go ahead and look outside of that original search ring. 120 Windy Meadows is just to the southwest of that ring. We typically, when things don't work out, we just expand the ring a little bit more. This next slide is I'm sorry, thank you, yeah. I'll do that. My apologies. Okay, so this is another slide. I wanted to highlight the existing towers that are already in the area. We are in an area that is, that does not have many towers, and this is to help extend. We always do try to look for areas where we can co-locate on existing towers or within like high enough buildings or structures. If you look, you'll see there are many towers to the southwest as well as to the east, and there's one to the north, but that still misses this particular area. And as I'm going to highlight in my next slide, because I'm going to show the elevations one last time, we can co-locate additional carriers on there if they should come looking for new space. So if we have one tower and it's open to other carriers, this would negate any need for new towers in the near future. Now, as Mr. Haas had shown you, this is a 110-foot tower, but as you can see, we do have space for additional carriers. And I also wanted to highlight that this is how we're attaching the antennas to the tower. And below that is, rather than using a platform mount, we went ahead and used sector frames for the antennas. Here we go. My apologies. I just wanted to re-highlight the land survey that Mr. has to go through, just to show you where on the property we are away from the frontage of the property and back towards the property. Excuse me. So I have one last slide for you that I wanted to highlight for our application. As I had said earlier, all of these documents, they're with the applications. This is additional mitigation strategies that are in Section 5 for deterrence to birds. The 4 that Mr. Haas had mentioned, and in the JBSA report, there were just the 4 that he mentioned. There is actually 7 different mitigation measures that we had proposed. In addition to the raptor decoys, the sonic deterrents, the bird spikes, and the wind moving deterrents, Verizon has also offered that they are willing to do lighting on the tower. This wouldn't be constant lighting. They would do specific like brightness that would be timed to go off at different times to deter birds from nesting or roosting. And as a good neighbor, there's also proposed lighting for night, but that would be more of motion sensors as security measures that are on the ground. So any birds or creatures that should come into, it would light up. And last but not least, Verizon had also offered if there are any 90-degree ledges, replacing those with 45-degree angles, that would also be a deterrent to nesting and roosting. And they have also mentioned in instances where they are able to, they would happily remove any 90-degree ledges. And I also want to mention that the third one, the bird spikes, that was a secondary measure to number 7 in the event that this was not possible. That was an extra measure that they had pointed out. I'm here to tell you that Verizon is very willing to commit to working with planning staff and JBSA if they are interested in any additional measures. We are also considering, if you were willing to offer like conditions of approval, we are more than happy to work with the city to make this happen. And as it said in the mitigation measures, we are also willing to look into the timeline. I know it was vague that it said, periodic site visits, but we are happy to commit to a timeline when we would make sure that these deterrents are in good working order. So I am happy to answer any questions that the City Council might have, planning staff, or the public.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Let's open up the, this item is on the agenda as a public hearing. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to address the City Council? Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Richard Rex, 9915 Marine Meadow, Garden Ridge. My building is directly next to where this tower is going to go. I'm at 116 Windy Meadows. When I have customers over for my business, and on any given day, I have to tell them as a joke, we got the building cheap because the building literally shakes when the planes go over. The planes fly directly over my building and 120 Windy Meadows. If you go out there between 2 and 3 o'clock any given day, you're going to probably see 20 planes. I was at the last zoning, and there was a gentleman from the Air Force, and he's like, they're 500 feet up. They're not 200 feet up. They're directly over where this tower is going to go. If you told me to pick the worst possible spot to put a tower, that's where it would be. It is directly underneath it. I got this from when I was at the zoning from the Joint Base San Antonio, their recommendations and what they were saying. And it says, San Antonio review of Verizon Wireless new tower build Maskey Road. This keeps saying Maskey Road in here. It doesn't say Windy Meadows. Maskey Road is about 2 roads away from the base. Now, we're in the flight plan where they're coming down. I don't think it's a good idea on Maskey Road, but I'm just saying, if you came out and looked up, this is not a good spot for this thing. That's all I got for you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council? Going once? Going twice? All right. Public hearing is closed. Council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I did get to talk with JBSA as well, and just what you were just talking about, they're not against communication towers or anything else, and technically the FAA says it works, but they are certainly concerned about the fact that this is on the final approach end and 15 left. This is the T-38s. This is going to be the T-7s using it. They're descending from 1,500 feet above the ground down to touchdown, and this is about halfway through, about, as you said, about 500 feet above the ground at this point, and that's a very critical phase of flight for these faster aircraft. They're not concerned about the small aircraft, or small birds, sparrows and cardinals, but they are much more concerned about like the vultures that congregate around these poles. So with that, I'm not going to support this. I feel that we have much more of a a commitment to Randolph than we do to Verizon.
All right, Councilmember Hayward.
Yeah, I can't support this either when they're talking about bird strikes. My husband lived through a bird strike, and those can be very dangerous for injuring the pilots or things that can go on in the aircraft, the air crew, and then the amount of damage that it can do to a plane in the millions of dollars if it doesn't just completely destroy a plane. So for me, my protection, I have to agree with Councilmember Brown that my protection and my obligation would probably be to Randolph because of what the partnership that we have, and so I wouldn't support this tower being there.
Council, any other comments? Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we disapprove ordinance 24S-145.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilmember Brown to disapprove ordinance number 24S-144 and second by Councilmember Hayward. Okay, any comments? All right, Council, if you can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 6 yeas, no objections to disapprove ordinance number 24S-144. So it does not pass. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 9, ordinance number 24S-145. Conduct a public hearing and consider a request to rezone approximately 3.3 acres of land from manufacturing light district M1 to single-family residential R6 known as Comal County Property Identification Number 5307, a portion of property also known as 7444 FM 482, City of Schertz, Comal County, Texas. First reading. Mr. Haas, floor is yours.
Ordinance 24S-145, zone change from manufacturing light to single-family residential R6. Samuel Haas, Senior Planner. So just to get our bearings here, the property is outlined here in green. They are proposing to rezone 3.3 acres. The total property is actually going to be 4.25 acres. It's a little confusing here because it shows 3 tracts, but it's actually just one property, and I'll kind of get into the details of that here in a minute. This is FM 482, just right here. This is the Danville Middle School. So on June 21st, 2024, a total of 6 public hearing notices were sent out. So far we have received no responses. 1 sign was posted on the property, and on July 17th, a public hearing notice was published in the San Antonio Express. So the existing zoning on the property is M1, manufacturing light. The proposed zoning is to take portions of that property and rezone it R6. The reason for this is the subject property has a permitted business that operates on the property. There's also a non-conforming residence that's there as well, both of which the current property owner owns. So the current zoning district does not permit residential uses, and that's what the non-conforming is. The applicant would like to build a larger home on the property. So the applicant is proposing to zone just portions of their property to allow their existing business to continue as well as build a bigger home. So, when the staff is analyzing zone changes, we use 2154D criteria for approval, and I'll go through these one by one. So whether the proposed zone change or zoning map amendment implements the policies of the adopted comp plan, including the land use classification of the property on the future land use map. So the comprehensive plan designates this area as a mixed use center, and I'll show you that right here in this graphic outlined here in yellow. And that district, or that classification, is intended to integrate residential, commercial, and entertainment spaces nearby, typically along significant transportation corridors. The idea for making this a mixed-use center goes back to actually our last comp plan. When we were discussing doing this new one, we thought that there was value in this, having a new town center, this transit-oriented development that could happen potentially around maybe a rail stop that could be coming. So the council thought that there was still value in keeping that, but where the position of that, where that was, a lot of that's turning into industrial. So we actually moved that further to the east into this little area, and it kind of extends over out of the screen here. But that is why this particular area is mixed use. And the goal of this mixed use was to create denser residential development along with some complementary commercial businesses. The applicant is incrementally creating residential density and conforming with the intent of the comprehensive land use plan. Number two, the proposed zone change or zoning map amendment promotes the health, safety, or general welfare of the city and the safe, orderly, efficient, healthful development of the city. So the city should encourage development compatible with surrounding uses. The surrounding area consists of open space, residences, Danville Middle School, and property to the west that's actually zoned for apartment multifamily district R4. While the area currently is zoned for industrial uses, it's evolving to function more like a neighborhood. So in order to ensure the safe, orderly, efficient development, expansion of the city should be in accordance with this comp plan. The proposed zone change does better align with the existing uses. And here's the properties here with this marked with the yellow star. You can see that there's this R4 zoning districts over here, just further to the west. That middle school is over here. Down to the south off of Hubertus, there's also some commercial zoning. And a lot of this is just open space along with some rural residences. So it's functioning more as a neighborhood rather than industrial areas. So number three, whether the uses permitted by the proposed zone change and zoning district classification and standards applicable to such uses will be appropriate in the immediate area of the land to be reclassified. Again, the immediate area is being a school, residences, open space. The proposed zone changes and the uses permitted within align to what is currently in the area. Number four, whether the proposed zone change is in accord with any existing or proposed plans for providing public schools, streets, water supply, sanitary sewer, public services, and utilities in the area. The property does abut FM 482, which is designated as a principal arterial, indicating that this road will accommodate denser development in the future. The property has access to a 12-inch water line and an 8-inch line that also run along FM 482. A public hearing notice was mailed to Comal ISD to notify them of the proposed zone change, and Schertz, fire, EMS, and police departments were notified of the zone change as well and have provided no objections. Oops. Number five, whether there's been an environmental or economic change that would warrant this requested change. There have been no environmental or economic changes that would warrant this. Number six, whether there's an error in the original zoning, there was no error. Number seven, whether all the applicant's back taxes are owed have been paid. This does not impact the first reading of City Council. Number eight, whether other criteria are met, which at the discretion of the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council are deemed relevant and important in the consideration of the amendment. Staff has ensured that all UDC requirements have been met for the proposed zone change, and at this time have not received any special consideration from City Council. The proposed zone change to single-family residential R6 is more compatible with the comp plan. It is appropriate with what's going on in the immediate area. It brings the property into conformance, and on July 3rd, 2024, the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing and recommended approval with a 6-0 vote. Staff is recommending approval of Ordinance 24S145.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. All right, this is, is the applicant here?
Applicant could not make it, no.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on. This is it's on the agenda as an open public hearing. Is there anyone in attendance who'd like to address the city council? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is closed. All right, council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Watson.
I motion that we approve ordinance 24S-145.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Watson and second by Councilmember Davis. Council, any comments? You can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 6 yeas, no objections. Motion passes. Next, we have a couple workshops. Item number 10, new zoning district, R5, and the Unified Development Code workshop. Mr. Haas, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this workshop is essentially going to be in 2 parts. First, we'll go with the R5 actually, and then we'll move into R4. And in between each section, we'll stop for a little discussion. That way we can kind of split it up. So traditionally in Schertz, we've really received 2 kinds of housing. Your traditional single-family house, which you see right here on the left, and your apartment complex, which you see on the right. Now, lately, there's been some trends in development. We're seeing some new product in the city, these lower density, dispersed townhome style developments. And what we've seen in the city is a lot of these are on one lot, and they're kind of multifamily in function, although they look more like just a denser neighborhood. And so here's an example of some of the things we've seen in the city so far. This is Schertz Station. This was done as a PDD, and it had 4 areas here. It had some commercial in 3 of them, and then it had a multifamily in area 3. Now, when you're applying for a PDD, you have to select a base zoning district that you're modifying. And so how this applicant came in is they did, for the commercial portions, they did general business, and they made their modifications that they requested, but there was nothing that they could really apply to the multifamily portion other than what's existing, our R4. And that's 24 units an acre, 35 foot high, all that stuff. Your traditional sort of apartment is what we typically see. Another example of this is this is another one that was approved called Schertz Gateway. Schertz Gateway was also a PDD, and again, you see kind of the commercial up here on the I-35 frontage, your more traditional multifamily block, but then you have all this low-rise stuff down here in the back. And this is kind of a concept plan, what they had here. So when they came in, we said, all right, well, you have to suggest the zoning district for the base, and one of them was general business for your commercial, your traditional multifamily right here. But for the track 3, the townhomes, we didn't have any applicable zoning district, so they came in with R4 and they made modifications. So essentially, staff, the PDD process has been, there's been friction a lot, and we like to sort of make sure that we exhaust all our straight zoning options first before we really start going and advising people one way or the other. And so what we're really saying is maybe we should have a district that we can, say, hey, you can ask for this straight zoning in your PDD, but we can also say, hey, you can also ask for the straight zoning. So staff is proposing a new zoning district to kind of help capture some of this. And in addition, kind of tandem to that, we're proposing to modify the apartment R4. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So with this first proposal, we're calling this R5, we're proposing to call this R5 middle density residential. It's a lower density than traditional apartment complexes, with the R4. We're providing incentives through the code for smaller multifamily developments, and I'll get into that a little bit later. And through this, we're helping to capture market trends by providing a variety of housing. So we'll do this in 5, we're proposing to do this in 5 sections. And these are the sections here. 2152, 55, 57, 58, and 2110-4. And I'll just go through these one at a time. So 2152 is a table that basically establishes the zoning districts. And this is illustrative because you can see that currently we have 1 through 4, and then it just jumps to 6. So this is why R5 was chosen, because we don't have one, so we decided to use that. Middle density residential district. 2155 is the statement of purpose and intent. And this is the narrative paragraphs that kind of explain what the zoning districts are. So I'll just go through this one sentence at a time. So middle density residential district R5 is intended to provide developments that offer a variety of housing types. This district is a suitable transition between single-family residential and commercial and or denser multifamily developments. It is comprised of attached or detached residential dwelling units. So we're giving a lot of sort of freedom there in terms of the product. So number one, when tracts in this district are 1 acre or less, density shall not exceed 16 units per gross acre, and these tracts will be required to adhere to the single-family site design requirements in Article 9. And I'll get into the nitty-gritty on that a little bit later. When tracts exceed 1 acre, density shall not exceed 12 units per gross acre, and these tracts will be required of the multifamily site design requirements in Article 9, and then provide 10% of the total platted area as common usable open space. Now, just so everyone's on the same page, what we mean by a tract is just sort of a general term for a unit or contiguous unit of land. Here's an example of this. This is 2 parcels, but this entire area together is 1 tract of land under 1 ownership. So it's just kind of a general term for a unit of land. So moving on, in another proposed change is in 2157A. This is our dimensional and design requirements. So for R4, you see that our area that we're proposing for the minimum lot size be 10,890 feet. And this is a 1/4 of an acre. It's not an arbitrary number. So 1/4 of an acre is the minimum lot size for this proposed district. The front, side, and rear setbacks, 25, 10, and 10. 2 off-street parking spaces, 35 feet high, and 80% maximum impervious coverage. Also, we're adding a new key, proposing to add a new key at the bottom of this table. And this was done, we were advising, we had got advice from our fire marshal and our fire department, and that we keep the minimum building separation as 10 feet. This is for when you're doing it as 1 large lot, you can ensure that there is adequate space between each building for our fire department to get in and out of there. And we also said that no HVAC units or fences may be within the building separation space. This is to help ensure that there's enough space there for people to move around. So in 2158, we're proposing in our permitted uses section, these are to add the permitted uses within the zoning district, what you can do. Accessory building, church with an SUP, gated community, golf course, multifamily, municipal uses, single family, attached and detached, park, playground, school, 2-family dwelling. Fairly standard permitted uses that are in our zoning districts, that are current residential zoning districts. 21.510 in our parking section for the middle density housing types. For tracts 1 acre or less, 1 space per unit. For tracts exceeding 1 acre, 2 spaces per unit. So, going into the motivation for the 1 acre or less differentiation. So the idea here was when a lot of our multifamily developments come in, the proposals that applicants bring forward, they typically are putting down 200, 300 units right next to some neighborhood, and a large disruption is going to cause a large disruption. And so the motivation here was, what if we can incentivize more incremental multifamily development by providing small density incentives for smaller developments, and also giving them more flexibility with their parcel and site and property layout by making them adhere to single family design requirements rather than multifamily. And the multifamily design requirements are there to ensure compatibility and buffering and ensure that disruption is mitigated as much as possible, right? So landscape buffers, 8-foot masonry walls, and then buffers from the right-of-way as well. So what we're proposing with the 1 acre or less is that they don't have to do any of this. And 2 trees per lot instead of 9 acres. There's still landscaping they have to do in the UDC, but it's more along the lines of the single-family zoning districts rather than the multifamily, which is intended because, which is there because those land uses are a lot more intense. So what would this look like? So 1/4 acre, you get 4 units, right? Rather than maybe you don't have tens of millions of dollars to build 300 units all at once. Maybe you can build a 4-plex. Maybe you and your buddies get together and you can build a 1/2 acre, 8-unit complex. Maybe for a 1 acre, you get 16 units. Now, I should mention here that there's still height requirements. So it's not going to be this tall, but this is just sort of an illustrative example of what we're talking about here. So our GIS department put together a map for us to see kind of what this kind of looked like as a dispersed pattern here. And what you see on your screen here in pink is all the lots in the city of Schertz, the current parcels that are between a 1/4 acre and an acre. This is what we're seeing here. So as you can see, there's some clustered here around 3009, kind of scattered all throughout the city here in North Schertz, some of them up on 482. A lot down here on 389, some on Schertz Parkway, 78 down here, and when you go down south, 1518, it's Lower Seguin. So instead, again, the idea here is that maybe instead of doing 200 units all at once, we can spread it out over the city, or at least incentivize it, right? We can only provide the sandbox, we can't control who plays in it, right? And so for the over acre, this one's fairly simple. You know, if you're over an acre, 12 units per acre, 2 parking spaces required per unit, and you're required to adhere to all the multifamily design requirements of Article 9. The bigger you go, the more requirements you're going to have to do. And what would that look like? Well, what we've already approved. This was the Schertz station, which is doing this back multifamily component here is 12 units an acre. And the Schertz Gateway that I previously mentioned is doing 10 units an acre back here. But they're larger, so they're going to have to adhere to all the multifamily design requirements. So that's the R5. So this is a workshop, so I want to invite any comments or questions we have about any of that.
All right, council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I saw when it goes next to a single-family unit, there's not going to be a masonry wall or landscaping requirement?
Correct.
Okay. It is smaller, so, yeah. Okay, just wanted to confirm that.
Councilmember Hayward.
I applaud you for trying to come up with something, because I do know that the way things are going, the state is looking at trying to make smaller lots, more density for affordable homes, and this gets us, because kind of the plan that's been out there is 33 1/3 units per acre. And I like the fact that it's smaller and it's dispersed, so nobody's going to put a whole bunch of them in one single area. And I think that might be more tolerable for residents, so then they're not looking at, like you said, 200 acres. So I think this gets us in the right direction, and maybe as the legislation comes in 2025, this could be one of those bargaining chips that we can use with them to say, hey, don't do this for the whole state. Here are some cities that are doing things that's trying to make it work and make it affordability, because we know it's coming. We've seen it from all sorts of cities, so I think this kind of gets us in that ball field to be able to, or ballpark, to kind of be able to see, hey, look, this is what we're doing. Don't come in and do anything drastic. And I like the concept of it. At least it's not all together. It's separated.
Councilmember Macaluso.
I see the need for it and why you guys came up with it. The only thing that would make me a little bit nervous is just requiring the 1 parking spot. I think that, you know, even just looking at your pictures of like the 8 units, and to think that, you know, all they would really have to do is have 8 parking spots, that just is going to increase parking on the street. So I don't know if that's the best route to go on the parking spot side, but otherwise I like what you guys came up with.
Well, if I can just kind of address that real quick, you know, the idea was to provide flexibility for these parcels. If you require double the parking spaces, then that's less land that you can build on. So if we do want to get smaller multifamily developments, if that's the idea, there are some incentives we have to do, right? And maybe the kind of person that lives in a fourplex maybe doesn't have a family, or maybe doesn't have kids or something. And I think really we just wanted to give people freedom, because there are all kinds of restrictions on lots, right? There's easements, and there's drainage that you have to do, and there's things that come into play that if we also made them do the parking situation as well, it might make this never happen, right? If you have to provide 16 spaces on, just so much usable land, then, that might be doable for a 16 unit, but for an 8 unit, that's not very much building as it is. So that was kind of the motivation for staff is, give them, if you're gonna go small, we give them a little bit of that incentive. Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Gibson?
I love this concept because, not only from a real estate perspective, but also from a residential perspective, when you have, I don't want to say this always like this, but right now the consensus is we have a lot of more younger, new entry-level residents coming in. This will be a lot easier for them and for anybody who's moving into the Schertz area. I think it's fair. I think that the design of it is beautiful. It gives us more of a modern ideation, even though it also, I saw that you had some other brick examples that kind of kept our historical feel of the city of Schertz in there. So as we continue to grow and stay consistent with the times and consistent with what's necessary, I think that this is a great idea.
Councilmember Brown, do you have additional comments?
Yeah, I was going to just kind of tag on to what everybody's saying over here. The tiny home concept that's out there nowadays, they only give you a single parking spot in them anyway. So I'm not too concerned about that with these models. And like you say, you get a little bit larger unit, you're going to have it. The target audience here wouldn't be families anyway. As you're talking about, it's going to be more of the entry level and or supporting our folks that are passing through for a year or so, your pilot training, things like that. So again, filling in those blanks out there. The only other issue I see, and that's got nothing to do with this, is the floodplains. But yeah, I think it's a great concept, and I press on. If there's something better, let us know.
No, I totally agree. It's a very creative concept because there's a lot of land out there, but it's too small for commercial. Maybe it's not the right place for residential. So it gives the owner or someone looking for land to consider their options. I do agree that one parking space, I know, but it's minimal because we're looking at anything that's less than an acre. Am I correct? If I remember that,
Correct.
if it's less than an acre, so you're not going to have that many issues on the parking, and most of the time it's the driveway that will provide that access to that parking. And based on the design, they might even make it 1.25 per unit. So it's very creative. I think it's something that the city will provide options to other individuals. Appreciate it. Council, any other comments? I think we have a go on the R5s.
Okay, so we'll work on that. So the next part of this proposal is modifying R4. So staff, and this is a workshop, okay? Staff is proposing denser, taller, but more selectiveness on the appropriateness of location. And we'll go through that. This one's pretty quick. So here's our current narrative for our R4. Now it looks really, really, complex. So here's the clean version of that. So this is what staff's proposed modified language is. Intended to provide denser apartment and multifamily style developments. This district is a suitable transition between single-family commercial uses, because as we like to say up here, there's nothing inherently wrong with putting apartments next to single-family. However, apartment R4 districts shall not be located in areas where they would increase traffic with access through single-family neighborhoods and shall be located adjacent to arterial streets. Okay, so one of your entranceways cannot be through a single-family residential neighborhood, right? And it has to be on an arterial street that could handle the traffic. The maximum density shall be 35 units per acre. 20% of the total platted area shall be provided as common usable open space. So here's 2157 as well, and this has R5 in it as well, just to kind of show you a comparison. Staff is proposing to make the minimum lot size an acre, 43,560 feet. This is because if you're going to go anything less than an acre, then you're going to choose R5. That's just how, and that's kind of what we're proposing here. The minimum width, we're increasing to 400 feet. This is to ensure 2 points of access, which is commonly something that we're always trying to get out of people. The max height, 500 feet, or I'm sorry, 50 feet. 50 feet. Now, I'll show you why I did this in a second here. So when we look at these UDC amendments, we're always kind of doing some target city research, and staff, we always look at our neighbors, we always look at some, we do some random polling or some random cities as well across Texas. And so when you look at our neighbors, we're fairly on par with the maximum density. 24 units an acre is pretty close to what other people have around here. San Marcos, some districts you can go more because of their form-based zoning district. San Antonio there's actually no max on some of San Antonio's districts, but some of their highest multifamily is 65. Temple does 40. So right now, we're basically on par. However, Schertz Gateway, which I mentioned earlier, as part of their PDD, they got approved for 35 units an acre. So that's why staff is proposing that. If we're comfortable with that on Schertz Gateway, seems like the next logical step for us. Again, we can decrease that or whatever you guys want to do. So that's just what staff's proposal is. Now, in terms of the height, so we actually seem to be about a little under what most everybody does. Most people go 45, 50, 60, 75 here. Schertz is kind of under, Schertz and Universal City are under really what most people do that we looked at. So the reason why we're doing 50 feet, it gives a little bit of architectural sort of freedom. And here's an example of a 4-story apartment complex. This is actually 51.5 feet tall. You can see it's not crazy, it's still 4 stories here. But at 50 feet, we could do 45, but 50 feet we thought would provide a little bit of freedom with the design of the facility. So going back to how selective we're going to be on the placement of this, what we're proposing. So every line you see here that's red or yellow is an arterial. This is our master thoroughfare plan. So we classify all these streets in the city. You're either a local street or a collector or an arterial being secondary or a principal. So you can see that what staff is proposing is that we say, all right, if we're going to go denser, go taller, then we limit the appropriateness of this to everything adjacent to yellows and everything adjacent to reds. So 3009, 1103, FM 2252 here in the north. Down here in the center Schertz, here we go Schertz Parkway, 3009, 78, FM 1518 down south. So you can see that we're being a little more selective about the appropriateness and when we're considering these zoning districts. So just to kind of summarize all that, we're increasing the minimum lot size to 1 acre, increasing the minimum width to 400, 35 units an acre, max height, 50 feet, no access through single-family neighborhoods, and must be adjacent to arterial streets. Any comments or questions on that one?
Thank you, Mr. Haas. All right, council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, again, adding a lot of potential variety there. Obviously, this isn't going to be a small person building these. It'll be more of a corporate ownership and development, but I like the 400 feet a lot. It's going to avoid a lot of the issues that we've had to deal with here in the last couple of years. So I think that's probably the key takeaway I'm seeing here. And the height, I got no problem with going up to 50 feet because most of this is going to be outliers anyway. So I'm good with it.
Any other comments? Councilmember Hayward?
I'd have to agree. I like the fact that you were purposeful in thinking about where these could go and making sure that the single-family residents aren't going to be impacted by these apartments that are going to be denser. So I truly appreciate that thought process that y'all put into it and looking through it. I love the idea because, as you say, the 50 feet gives you more architectural detail that they can put in to match in with the way we see Schertz, be it historical or modern. It'll make it work. So truly appreciate it. I say go for it.
Seeing no other comments, I think we're good to go on both.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
Mayor,
much,
Council.
Mr. Haas. All right. Next on the agenda is item number 11, the proposed FY 2024-2025 budget workshop and discussion on the proposal of the 2024-2025 budget. Mr. Walters.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is James Walters. I'm the Finance Director here for the City of Schertz. And Mr. Williams and I will go over the proposed budget. Many of the items are the same as what we talked about on Friday. This is a good opportunity to go over it again for the citizens in the audience and the citizens at home. So with that.
Mayor, Council, I'll lead off with a couple of comments. This is going to be a little bit redundant from what you saw on Friday. We've taken some of the more detailed slides out that have a longer explanation, say with the CIP and the incentive pays program. So it's a little bit of a trim down, but you're going to hear a little bit of redundancy because we felt like it was important for the citizens to be able to see that, the residents that are watching to be able to see that. So we're going to go back over this, and I'm going to give just a quick update again. So if you want to change the slide, you're going to have to drive the bus there. So just a reminder, our goals, and the budget was put together with these goals in mind. This is something that we tweaked it a little bit in the current fiscal year in developing the budget, but these have existed for several years for the city in base structure. So with that in mind, the budget is developed with staff compensation and being competitive in the marketplace in terms of attracting and retaining good personnel. We are a service-driven organization that survives. You saw tonight, we have all those new employees that we were able to bring on board, as well as the promotions that we have. So we are gaining a lot of momentum in that area, and the budget takes that into account. Also, the infrastructure, street maintenance and repair. You saw the pothole truck out there, and of course, maybe I'm a little more excited than I need to be, but I'm excited that we are able to address street maintenance and repair again. As the consolidated CIP you saw during the presentation, we have gotten to the point where we have a consolidated capital improvement program that maps out how we can address our capital needs for the next 5 years more in detail, and then out into the future beyond that for 5 more years. And then lastly, staffing. We weren't able to do as much with staffing increases as we would like to, but we were able to address some critical areas, especially in the water and sewer fund, where we're behind. We're behind what our staffing plan says. So we're able to add that in the water and sewer fund. And then lastly, the remodeled facilities and new facilities. That is something that we've taken a really big leap forward in being able to plan for those new facilities that we'll have out in the future, as well as some of the more heavy, intensive remodels that we have planned. So, all right, if you could. And just as a reiteration about an update essentially on our class and comp program, that we did a study, and then we implemented the results of that study this year. which really has yielded positive results for our city and for our organization. Just that we pointed out that the turnover rate is down to 12.35%. We used to live in the neighborhood of 16 to 18% in the prior year. Our vacancy rate is held steady at 8%, and that was upwards in the neighborhood of 12%, 12, 13, 14%. So we are seeing a lot of momentum in that area in regards to priority number one. And then lastly, during the workshop, we went over the results. Noel was here to give the results of the employee engagement survey, which is really a good way to take the temperature of how your workforce feels. We saw positive gains in every single area, which is a testament to the progression we've made as an organization. But some of it does have to do with, especially where we saw a gigantic gain in terms of people's perception of compensation, and that's due to the implementation of this program. So a lot of success there. The budget is built around keeping that momentum going. All right, you can do the next slide. So I'm going to turn it over to James. He's going to go over the details of the budget. And I want to say one more thing before we get to it. At the end, we did hear you at the retreat, and so there will be a detail of options, different ways that we can look at this, and different options that you can choose from in terms of adopting the budget. It's more specifically drilled down to the general fund. So go ahead, James.
All right, so the budget highlights for all funds. It does include a health insurance savings, changing all lines of coverage, the same level of benefits with a different carrier. We can actually see an 11% decrease instead of a 10% increase if we stay with the same carrier. Overall, the savings will be about $681,000 citywide, just for the medical, and then another $67,000 for all other types of coverage. It does include wage adjustments through all the funds, maintaining our market position that we achieved through the implementation of the class and comp study with an ECI adjustment of 4.4%. Doesn't quite get to the published rate from the Bureau of Labor Statistics of 5.1% as our goal. And also includes a merit and step program, which we've foregone last year, or the current year. So next year will be the first year we've done that in a couple years as well as include some changes to our incentive pay programs that we went over in more detail on the second. Specifically for the general fund on the expenditures, the proposed budget was at $53.1 million. It's an increase of about $1.8 million or 3.6% from the 23-24 adopted budget. Non-personnel budgets actually decreased. There were some increases, but they're offset by less street maintenance that was temporarily increased in funding from 23-24, as well as some personnel budgets increased 8.4% caused by the ECI adjustments, and full year funding of positions started mid-year this year, and then full year funding of the class and comp study with higher deployment costs that we also seen from fire when they get deployed around the state for emergencies. That was slightly offset by the lower insurance costs we mentioned on the previous slide. General fund increases. We did have some other increases. Not sure what the format went on this one. It looked fine earlier. We had $700,000 increase for non-discretionary type items. These were costs that generally the city has no true control over. The property liability insurance went up about $80,000. Tourist contribution, which we're contractually required to do, is $150,000-ish. Utility increases as we continue to grow. Electricity was the main portion of that, starting adding street lights and other buildings, and during hot summers. The IT technology increase, we have a PD RMS software that was approved and implemented that comes into full effect next year with their annual maintenance, and then we do have to maintain our CJIS compliance, and we have to replace some outdated and old computers that won't run Windows 11, which is a requirement by October 2025. The expanded type programs, about $1.3 million. These are our new type of programs unrelated to these manual type increases. Includes the ECI of about $1.2 million. That was that 4.4% we mentioned just for the general fund. The merit and step program, about $387,000. The incentive pay program for the general fund, $125,000. And those are offset by the insurance adjustment of $375,000. So the overall budget and historic adopted budgets, you can see here with the increase from 23-24 to 24-25. Our personnel budget increased from year-end projection about $34 million up to about $36 million. We had 2 years of adding new personnel and then as well as the class and comp update. On the operating side, you see a slight decrease from the budget, but a slightly increase from maybe the year-end projections. And the capital outlay, a little bit higher in 23-24 as we slowly start to come out of the delivery and supply chain issues that were holding up a lot of our vehicle replacements and other large equipment from the past couple of years. On the general fund revenue side, we do continue to see an increase in the disabled veteran homestead exemption amount and overall number of exemptions. The total taxable value of exempt property under this exemption just shy of $1 billion. That would equate to about $4.8 million in taxable revenue, or if we translated that into a tax rate, we could have a 0.41 tax rate instead of our current proposed tax rate. This is this does equate to about 1 out of every 5 homesteads in the city of Schertz has this DVHS exemption, which does completely exempt the owner of paying any property taxes. And then 1 of every 2 homesteads in the city of Schertz has some sort of disabled veteran exemption. The council approved a resolution back in July authorizing the city to support legislation that would establish a dedicated funding mechanism for this program. The city does endorse and encourage this program. We do believe it's a great program. The state offered an aid program for cities and counties that had a large number or concentration of veterans with this exemption. However, has not been properly funded, with Schertz requesting about $3.1 million last year and only receiving $868,000. So that agrees about 27% of the amount we requested we received. The year prior, we only got 48% of what we requested, as then big portion of that was A, they didn't increase the funding amount, and then B, there's 2 more entities that applied that they had to disperse out to. So on the tax rate definitions, we have the no new revenue tax rate. That's a tax rate at which the city would raise the same amount of money as it did last year on properties that existed last year. We would only get additional funding from new taxable property being added to the roll. We also calculate a voter approval rate. So this is the rate that council can approve on its own. Council can adopt a rate above this, but it would be an automatic election and go to the voters this November. And I'll show you our current rate and our proposed tax rate. This proposed tax rate that we're asking to set a little bit later tonight is the maximum rate that council could set without reissuing public notices and reholding public hearings. You can adopt a rate lower than this, but at any point in time you wanted to go higher, we would have to call some special meetings and get this published in a separate day. So the current tax rate is 0.4872. The no new revenue tax rate would be 4.805. The voter approval rate is 0.4990. And the proposed tax rate, which the budget is presented at, is 0.4990. About 1 penny on the tax rate is equal to about $564,000 in revenue for the city, or $34.31 on the average home annually. So we also have that tax rate actually makes up of 2 separate tax rates. One's the M&O, or maintenance and operations. That goes to fund the general government side. That's the police, fire, everything you think of that when you think of a city and how it operates. And then it has the INS, or interest and sinking, and that one goes specifically to pay the city's debt. So the M&O rate under the proposed would go from 0.3324 to 0.3416, and the INS rate would go from 0.1548 to 0.1574. for an overall increase from 4.872 to 0.4990. The estimated tax bills for the no new revenue rate would be $1,648 annually from the city of Schertz. The voter approval and the proposed rate would raise that to $1,712, or a $63.47 annual increase, or 3.9%. That $63.47 is about $5.29 on the monthly escrow. The tax bills are based on the average taxable value of homes in 2024 per the certified tax rolls. And then everything you saw up top was the annual amounts. So the historic tax rates for the M&O, you can see up here from 2018 to 24. The proposed M&O tax rate for maintenance and operations is the second lowest we've had in the past 5 years or 6 years. On the INS rate, you can see the history from 2018 as well, with the proposed rate being the third highest overall in the 7-year window. When you combine those two, sorry, the formatting seemed to got wonky on here, but it's 0.5146 for 2018 and 19 was the total tax rate. 0.5121 was the total tax rate for 2020 and 2021. And then 2022 was 0.4950. That was last year. The current year is 0.4872, and the proposed on the left on 2024 is 0.4990. The second highest source of income for the general fund is the sales taxes. You can see the rolling 3-year percentage growth. We had a very strong growth rate from 2019 through 2022. Started to slow down a little bit in 2023. And we're closer to our long-term average, about 6% projected for this year, and then we kept that as our proposal for next year. Here's our franchise revenue. Growing steadily over the years, slightly offset or offshot in 2023-24, probably back in line for 24-25. Our permit revenue, thanks to our commercial growth recently, has exceeded the budget expectations for the current year. And then based on the last few years of history and the continued permit revenue seems to come in, staff is recommending we increase our normal budgeting amount to about $2 million for next year. Under the fee side, also related to development is the plan check fee, which falls into the fees. And those amounts are the reason why it's gone over budget for the past few years, as well as the reason we're proposing to go up to about $2 million on the fees as an estimate. Overall general fund 5-year forecast, 24-25 proposed budget, you see the $53,100,000 in expenses. That is estimating to pull out of funds from fund balance and lower our fund balance percentage to about 25%. Our goal is to keep it around 26%, but if we fall below that, we have about a year to get back to the 26% per our ordinance. We believe we can accomplish that within 1 year by 25-26 if we fall that low. The amount above 26% would show our capacity to continue to add new programs, new staff, and other new softwares and new programs for the citizens. So you see that continues to grow and being available for us to continue to add new items, especially when we get to 27, 28, and 29, 30. Under the INS fund, the 5-year summary at the INS rate of 1574, we could accomplish these following debt funds of $20 million is coming actually on September 3rd to council to accept or to not accept the bids, as well as coming up with additional funding opportunities next year and then a couple years after that as well. So with that schedule, this is what the annual debt service payments would look like with the different bond yields. Under the water and sewer fund, as Mr. Williams mentioned, we have 5 water and wastewater worker 1s proposed to be added, along with a meter technician. This would also reclassify a customer service representative to an administrative assistant, and able to purchase some also vehicles and equipment, including a SCADA service truck, a supervisor truck, a well dump truck, or a well route truck, a mini dump truck, and a backhoe, as well as making a one-time transfer of about $3 million to the CIP fund. Their water and sewer forecasts looks like this for about 26% currently after the $3 million is proposed for this current year. Gets back in line at 24 or 26 with our new debt service to accomplish our CIP needs for the water and sewer fund. And seeing as how we anticipate a lower fund balance or fund equity going forward, we'll be reaching back out to our rate expert and see if we can get a new 5-year rate study to see what that would look like to keep us from going down below the 20%. Under the EMS fund, proposed adding positions at mid-year, including a part-time to full-time supply coordinator. That's just a reclassification of an existing position, adding hours onto that individual. Adding a 12-hour battalion chief program, as well as a peak hour truck would involve hiring 2 EMTs. Also tonight is when the fee schedule adoption takes place, that would increase the fees. The EMS would receive an estimate about $1.3 million Those fees have not been increased in many years. EMS's 5-year forecast under their cash balance, this includes cash and investments. They are proposed to be negative cash by the end of this year and continue on that trend for next year, and then slowly continue on out of that up until 29-30. However, they would not be adding any other programs during that time frame. There'd be no new ambulance crews, no other shifts to a 12-hour service, and no other new programs for community safety or education. We also included a capital improvement program, as Mr. Williams mentioned earlier. The proposal is about 20 projects to be either starting or have started in 24-25, with a total expected expenditure of just over $30 million, funded through our cash reserves, as well as that are already allocated towards CIP programs, as well as the $20 million bond fund that we have out, as well as other remaining bonds that have been issued already and that we have in our bank and we're waiting to spend, like the fire station number 4. In the water and sewer CIP, they plan to have 18 projects underway or already started, including $45 million, mostly in the water fund. And as we mentioned in the previous on the water sewer side, we do plan to go back out for some water debt service to help fund these projects coming up in next year. On the drainage side, they'll have one project for about $1 million included in that debt service plan as well. I really don't know what happened with the brief movement from my desk over to here. Let me see if I can get this up. They warned me that I did not listen. Down a little bit, all right. Not sure what happened. I went very quickly, but I'm also going to hand out some more detail on the items up here listed: 1% reduction and 2% reduction.
So I'm going to actually take over right here and walk through. During the budget retreat, there was some discussion from a couple of council members to potentially keep the tax rate or adopt some other tax rate than what is included in the proposed budget. For example purposes, we've put together this list of potential cuts, as well as what the impact is if you reduced it back to the current tax rate, current year's tax rate. So that's 48.72 for the current year, and proposed at 49.90 in the proposed budget. That's a difference of 1.18 pennies. So, and that equates to $680,000 from the O&M tax rate in the general fund. So the O&M tax rate would go down from 34.16 to 32.98 to maintain the total tax rate of 48.72. So the debt tax rate does not change. It'll stay at the 15.74 because that's put in place to pay the debts that we're already obligated to, that we've already incurred. The items that we have listed here, we've gone through and we can explain these, and if there are additional questions, James has handed out some detail that backs up the 1% reduction in base budget and the 2% reduction in base budget. So I'll just kind of walk through these. The incentive pay is the amount that affects the general fund in terms of the presentation that you saw on incentive pays. This is the increase amount. It's not the entire incentive program. But the entire increase was about $150,000 across the board, weighted when you, i.e. if you include the benefits associated with that increased pay. This is just the general fund portion at $125,000. That's a potential item that could come out. We also have the merit and step, that's $387,000. And then you could reduce the ECI from 4.4 to 2.2. And that would generate $600,000 in savings. We also looked at the base budget. So these are non-personnel items that are currently built into each department's budget. We asked them to go and look at a 1% reduction as well as a 2% reduction and list out the probable effects that would have on how they operate and deliver service. You can see 1% generates 150,000 roughly, and 300,000 for the 2%. The exact numbers that the departments generated are on the sheet that you were given. It's slightly different. Also, there are two lumps of capital money, if you will. So we have park improvements at 200,000 and facility improvements at 250,000, and those are in those respective departments where they're for a little bit larger items that they plan to do this next year. And then lastly, we have, if we were to increase all of our fees by an additional 5% across the board, what would that generate? Roughly $200,000. I'll throw this out there for the council. I will say, you know, I emphasize the goals that we have as an organization, and the budget was built around that goal structure. These aren't necessarily in a priority order, but in terms of what I'm proposing to the council is to maintain an ECI that's close to that 5.1% to keep us in the market, as well as to maintain competitiveness. I don't expect that we would have an immediate turnaround by not doing something that's a little bit higher in terms of an ECI, but it does degrade it over time, and it makes it for a lot harder hill to climb when we come to the next time around when we have a survey, a classification and compensation study. There are issues associated with each of these, but it is my opinion that the base compensation plan is where we get the most mileage out of maintaining a solid workforce. So, Mayor, thank you, and I'll turn it over to the council.
All right, council. Floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, and you know, I do want to thank the staff for all the work they've done on the budget, but as I said on Friday, I think there's enough wiggle room in our proposed budget where if you're telling me that if we keep our current property tax rate, we're calculating a difference or a shortage of 680,000. From what I'm looking at here on this slide, to me, if we stay at the current tax rate, I think there's enough wiggle room where we can be productive and we can take care of our staff without raising the tax rate and passing. Again, the biggest problem that we've got is not that the city staff is going crazy or the city council's going crazy trying to do things that the city doesn't need. The biggest impact we have is that previous slide that you showed, that the impact of the Veterans Exemption, which is a great program put out by the state of Texas, and the impact that it's having on our community. And to me, the way forward is to continue to address our state legislatures and have them come up with a better solution to backfill and offset that program that they put across the state, because it's adversely affecting some cities, like the city of Schertz, at a tremendous impact compared to other cities that don't have an impact. So, I mean, if the current property tax rate is showing a difference of 680,000, I think there's enough wiggle room in here where if we put our minds to it, we can figure out a way to offset that without just arbitrarily increasing our tax rate and passing that on to the residents in our community that do have to pay property taxes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gibson.
I respectfully understand the point that Councilmember Davis is making. However, I beg to differ. I think that we have to stay in a good pendulum of moving forward. If we don't do it now, I do realize that this will be potentially an issue later. Is that correct? As far as the way I'm understanding it, like if we wait to raise this rate, which it will have to happen. It sounds awful, but it will have to happen, but it'll happen later on, which will be a lot more than where we are right now. Is that correct? Am I understanding that projection correctly?
The benchmark that we use, the Employment Cost Index, is put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's specifically to state and local government workers and employees. And it's saying that as of June 30, the over last year, wages have gone up 5.1% for those folks, which is why we've looked to it as a benchmark and why we try to set as much as we can close to it. So that's basically saying that our competitors have gone up 5% across the nation, and to be competitive, we should try to get there.
So I think the biggest point too here for me is your biggest selling point from the staff side continues to be this ECI. But we're not just talking about ECI here. We're talking about
Any one of these.
a lot of, like, all of our other categories. So I see it in its totality, not just from ECI perspective, which our employees and our staff deserve to live with livable wages. I absolutely agree with that point. How I see it is I don't believe that there's another fix right away for this. This is the option that we have, unfortunately, based on legislation. That's not going to happen overnight, and it's certainly not going to happen next year around this time, I'm sure, unless we all rally together. And what I would say right here on streaming live, our residents could also rally with us and make sure that we're all standing firm on the legislation to have the state pay us for all of the deficits that we're experiencing from a city's perspective. Now, do I want to lay that on the residents' hands? No. However, that's also how municipal government works sometimes. So, I mean, I propose, and I agree with going ahead and going with the 499.
Okay. Before I recognize another council member, on the disabled vet exemption, we calculated 800,000 as reimbursement?
Yes, that is proposed in the budget, same as the current year, roughly, assuming no other entities apply for it next year. The state didn't increase their funding, so we expect to get about the same amount unless other entities, new entities applied, which
Fine,
would reduce
thank you.
our amount.
All right. Councilmember Hayward.
Yeah, respectfully, I understand, again, Councilmember Davis's point to the 1 penny. When I look at this and then the sheet where we could kind of cut this and the things that will be cut, I'm not looking forward to cutting some of the programs that we already have with, cutting training for police officers, reducing the hours of the swimming pool and splash pad, reducing neighborhood services with graffiti. I mean, knowing that people are out there doing it. Just some of the things that you put here, I'm not willing to cut those programs in order to not raise a penny. I get the state should be paying us more, but rallying behind and getting to the state, yes, it's not going to happen this year. We could be looking at this for several years because I know other cities were trying to get people to rally at the last policy summit on having the state reimburse those, because there are some cities that they're not even close to a base and they don't get any money back. And so when you're looking at overall $4.8 million out of our budget, and I think all the veterans should get their just, the disability homestead, the exemptions that they give, because they've given a lot of their time and they've sacrificed, and some have given more than just their time and their health. Some of them have given their lives for this, and so I think they deserve that. And I hate to do that on the backs of residents, but until we can get people to rally with us, and like Mayor Pro Tem Gibson said, we need residents to rally and say, hey, this is state, you have this surplus in your budget, and for the foreseeable future, you're gonna have a huge surplus. Why aren't you giving that to the cities that are being affected by the program you put in place? We think it's a great program, but we're being affected with our budget, and we can't do the things that we need to do as a city. I know we don't have unions or anything like that, but just this weekend, because they couldn't agree, the city of Houston had to pay $650 million or something like that dollars. So each firefighter in the last 7 years, because they couldn't pay them, each one of them got about a $165,000 check. And they didn't wait to pay them later. They all ended up at the Reliance Center and gave them a check Saturday and Sunday. And so that's because they wouldn't pay them what they needed to be paid for market rate. They were underpaid. And whether we do it today or 5 years from now or 2 years from now, we're going to end up increasing unless things change with sales tax revenue or something to that effect. If we're going to keep this up, because interest rate, employee rates and the ECI is going up, it's not going to stop because everyone is increasing their pay. And it's not going to stop. And if we don't do it now, we're going to do it again. Last year we put $2.1 million in to increase everybody after the class and comp. So we took care of everyone and brought them to it. Schertz has been always behind the curve in paying their employees and keeping up with market rate. We've got us where we need to be at market rate. I think we keep going and doing the things that we need to do because our residents suffer also with these programs that we use to cut. And I think our residents deserve Class A treatment service, and they get that from the city of Schertz. We've always been that type of city that try to give that. And we need to just make sure that the employees are paid and compensated without us going backwards again, because we were there and we lost a lot of people. I don't think, and I know that a lot of people may not leave for 4%, but I don't want us to get to the point where if we don't do it this year, then next year it's 9% or 10%, and we just keep going and we're kicking the can down the road. And we put ourselves right back where we were before. We're trying to increase and make 2.1 million or 3.1 million, whatever that ends up being. I think I would have to agree that I pay the taxes that everybody else does. My husband is not 100%, and so I pay taxes just like everyone else. And when I increase or say that I'm going to increase the tax rate, I have to pay that too. We have to pay that too. It's not just, oh, well, everyone else has to. I have to. We have to. And I wouldn't want that, but right now the state's not playing ball. And we don't know when they're going to play ball, and we keep having a deficit in our budget because of that. So I agree with the 0.49. It's not a great look, and I know it looks bad when the economy is having issues, but I don't know. There is no quick fix for this.
Councilmember Brown.
First of all, I agree with everybody, and it is very difficult to do this. But I'm going to kind of default to Councilman Davis. I just looked at this here, and thank you guys for the work putting it all together. I mean, obviously raising all fees by 5%, that's almost a no-brainer because we've got to do it anyway, just keeping up with the Joneses. The incentive pay is one of those that doesn't affect base pay. So if we delay that a year or something to implement, probably less to worry about. The 1%, I hate, like Councilman Hayward said, there's a lot of little things in here that it doesn't look like much, but the public's gonna, the public that uses these facilities will see. However, I'm thinking of this as a 1 year dig into the budget, and then we can take 50 grand from facilities, 50 grand from parks, not unfund them, just reduce it a little bit, and that comes up with 575, and make it 52.5 out of each one, and there's your or 675, whatever. So there is room there. It's not a comfortable room, but reducing our taxes so much to begin with put us into this place. And trying to go back on them, the more I thought about it, Councilman Macaluso was absolutely correct when he said, we can't, the optics of raising it is just not right. But we also have to be careful about reducing taxes just for optics as well in the future. But for right now, I think as ugly as it is, 1 year, if we can get through this 1 year, because I'm a firm believer that the economy will get better, and we do have some really positive growth coming into the city, which will help us with our tax rolls on the commercial side, on the sales tax side. And although we will have to grow along with that, I think we'll have the budget bandwidth to do that and get back to normal.
Before I recognize another council member, I was doing some calculations here. We're looking at 49.90 or 48.72. That is the range between the current tax and the voter approval. If we cut 170K from the proposed 49, that will bring it down to 49.65. If we find 340,000, we can reduce it to 49.4. And if we find 510,000, we can reduce it to 49.15. And I'm providing these as options for council to consider. So it doesn't have to be the whole 680. It can be portions for consideration. With that, Councilmember Macaluso? Yeah.
Yes, and I just want to clarify, we presented it that way just so you could do precisely what you just did to kind of chop it up rather than make it really busy. And so we didn't mean to say that
Yes,
that's,
no.
that's it or nothing.
No, it's just, I just needed for council to realize that there's an in-between there. There's a compromise that can be in there we can decide on. Again, those are options. Councilmember Macaluso?
Yeah, my thoughts really haven't changed much from last week. I still firmly believe that I don't support increasing the tax rate at all. I think that, we say right now, hey, let's move it up to this because it says 5.1 for the ECI, even though our revenues weren't what we thought they were. And then we go into next year and sales tax didn't make what we thought, but the ECI still went up 5.2. We're just going to continue to raise the rate to be able to meet that. I just think that's a slope we don't want to go down. The budgets go up and down. Our revenues go up and down. And it's not saying that staff isn't deserving of an increase. They absolutely are. It's just you live within your means. And if that means that, if it's decided that the pay is the most important thing, then maybe we don't buy some new office furniture, or there's not an upgrade done to an office building or something along those lines. If we need to make cuts somewhere to be able to do that, then make the cuts. But I understand this. It's kind of, I really didn't like this sheet. I think it's kind of more used as like a scare tactic in terms of, hey, we're going to have less uniforms or less graffiti can be cleaned. I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't see in a program how a $500 or $1,000 here is going to change the complete makeup of that program. So I didn't really like this sheet very much, but I'm still on the same thought that we keep the tax rate the same. And if we decide that doing the ECI to a higher percent level is necessary, then we need to find other areas to remove some of the costs.
Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm looking at this right. So what you're showing here is the property tax rate. If we maintain the current tax rate, we're off by about 680,000, correct?
Correct.
And if we provide an ECI of 2.2% to our employees, that would cover 600,000 of that, correct? Okay. Just to make sure that everybody is looking at this the right way, again, I support the staff 1,000%. I appreciate all the work they do. The ECI is a national rate, correct? And it's projected to be at like 5 point something, 5.1?
5.1 was the last quarter, yes.
Was the last estimate, right? That's a national average. What is the average for an ECI for the state of Texas or for this area of Texas?
I don't believe they break it down that way.
Yeah, so we're trying to look at a cost index to increase salaries based on a national average, which really has nothing to do with the employment conditions in this local area, if it's including New York City and California and those other areas. And even if we reduce the ECI to 2.2%, and that covers the majority of this gap, and still keep the merit step program is on a baseline 2%, correct?
Correct.
2% for the steps for public safety?
On average, 4%
Well,
for
no,
the
but-
steps on average for the public safety. It was based on their higher date, so
At
could
the low-
average out to
at the
about
low
2% a
end,
year.
2%?
The actual amount that they receive is 4% throughout the public safety plan. The budgeted amount is roughly 2% because it's half the year. The merit is 0 to 4%, and it averages out to about
And as I
2.5.
stated before, what percentage of the employees don't get a merit?
20%, that was back when we had lower turnover or higher turnover.
20% because they're brand-new employees or they're still on probation or something along those lines.
Something like that.
But the majority of our permanent employees that have been here and have completed their probation time, they generally get 2%.
At least.
Or higher.
Yeah, 2% or higher.
So if we just did a comm study and we just put how much money in the comm study towards all of our employees overall?
It was 2.8.
2.8 million citywide, all funds.
Citywide, we just put $2.8 million out of our budget towards employee compensation. And even with what you're proposing here for the things, if we lowered the ECI to 2.2% and we kept the merit program, then every employee is going to be getting approximately, give or take, some a little bit lower, at least 4% pay raise. I will go on the record and say that I'm pretty confident that most of the people in the local community aren't getting a 4% pay raise this year. Federal employees aren't getting a 4% pay raise this year. So, I mean, for what we just put against all of our employees under the comp study and bringing them up a grade, and then we're giving them potentially another 4%, I don't think that's a bad deal for our employees. We're not laying anybody off. We're not dismissing anybody because of the budget, but we're saying you're only going to get a 4% pay raise versus a 6% or higher pay raise. I don't think that's a bad trade-off to look at it when it comes to what we're asking of our residents on their tax rate. And yeah, I get it. It's only a penny, and on the property tax assessment, the average homeowner, if we raise it to the proposed rate, then that's another that's like $67 a year to the average homeowner. Versus if we keep it at the current tax rate, their taxes are still going to go up. Don't get this is on the record. Don't get this the wrong way or take it the wrong way. If we keep the current tax rate, everyone that's paying taxes is going to pay more, but it's $20 a year versus $67. I don't think that's a bad trade-off. That we look at our employees and say, hey, times are rough. They're rough for everybody. The residents are going to pay an extra $27 a month or whatever, even with our current tax rate, and your pay raise is only going to be 4%. Because like I said, there's a lot of people in the private sector that aren't getting that.
$20 annual, not monthly.
Pardon?
$20 annual, not monthly.
I understand annual.
I just want to make a note to our city staff. This is not regarding the compensation. This is regarding the maintenance and operation of our city budget and where we have to determine what is in the best interest of this city. So I don't want our staff to misunderstand what the whole discussion is here. We value their work and their dedication to the city. This is about the budget for this coming year for the city of Schertz. All right. Any other comments?
So Mayor, just as a reminder, James will be back on the 20th and then again in early September for the final adoption of the budget. And we can make any changes the council directs from now until then. But this is the opportunity where we were seeking direction from the council kind of as a body on which way we should proceed. So that's kind of what we're hoping to achieve tonight.
Okay. Any other comments? I see none. Okay, we'll go ahead and close this portion of the workshop. And we'll go on to item number 12. Resolution number 24R94. Resolution accepting the state-defined tax rates and setting the preliminary 2024 tax rate. Mr. Walters.
So we're asking council tonight is set a preliminary maximum tax rate. This is the rate that would go in all the notices. Council can adopt a rate lower than that rate voted on tonight, but they can't adopt one higher, as I mentioned before, without resending notifications in the paper and holding additional public hearings, depending on the time frame. Could result in additional special called meetings. So the no new revenue rate is 0.4805. The voter approval rate is 0.4990. The proposed tax rate and what was on the item was 0.4990, but that can be changed tonight with council's vote. It would be a motion to set a preliminary tax rate of a number, and then we would update the resolution and then send out the notices of public hearing based on what we hear today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walters. Is there specific language for this resolution?
No, just a normal resolution, just a normal language, but if you plan to change the rate, then be sure to include the proposed rate in the motion. And as it is just a preliminary rate, it does not have to be a supermajority. It can be a simple majority.
So the preliminary rate has been set on the resolution 24R94 as 49.90. Thank you. Right, council. Councilmember Brown.
Okay, I want us to vote tonight, and I'm going to recommend, I'm going to make a motion that we go with the proposed tax rate, because that gives us the flexibility. We can always, in our future discussions here over the next few weeks, reduce it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just saying that, say it out loud again. We can reduce the rate before we adopt the rate for next fiscal year, but we can't increase it at all. I just want to give us that working room. So I'm going to make a proposal that we accept the resolution 24R94 at 499.
Second.
Have motion made by Councilmember Brown, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gibson. Council, any other comment?
Knowing that we can, yes, I do.
Right.
I agree with Councilmember Brown. Let's set the rate now, and then if we choose in the interim, we can move it down if we all see fit going forward as we start looking more in depth into where there could be money saved.
Right, council. Please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 4 ayes, 2 objections. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to item number 13, ordinance number 24M124. Amend the City of Schertz Code of Ordinances and certain other ordinances by amending and establishing fees for certain licenses, permits, and other services. This is our final reading. Mr. Walters?
This is the same item that came before council previously. There's no change in the proposal to the rates that y'all saw before. Staff pulled this item in case, based on the discussion we had in the past 2 items, any recommendations for changes in the fees could be done now, or council could approve it as presented and then come back with direction from staff to do another update later, or just accept this one and then move on. So we can.
And just for clarity, before we have any discussion, on the previous workshop, that one item will be taken off the chart with the 5% increase that showed the increase of revenue. I don't remember exactly the amount. It takes it off the
Unless the council
proposal.
wants to address it again, you could address fees at any point in time. It would just require 2 readings, 2 passages.
Yeah, we pulled it off consent, just in case council got really behind that idea, we could make that adjustment now.
Yeah.
But if not, we could have discussions on any individual fees that council would look at, or we could adopt as staff's original proposal and then bring it back to council if that's another direction that we hear. We want to take another look.
And that's,
Fee increases do not have a statutory requirement to adopt them at any point, a certain point in the year.
yeah, I just would not like to see us pass it and then bring it back for discussion the second, the third time. with third and fourth time. But just want to make that clear for the council before we take any action on this one. All right, Councilmember Hayward.
I have no discussion, and since this is the final reading, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 24M124.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilmember Hayward and second by Mayor Pro Tem Gibson. Council, any other comments? Please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 6 ayes, no objections. Motion passes. All right, item number 14, we're going to a closed session. The City Council will meet in the closed session under Section 551.087 of the Texas Governmental Code. Deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, closed meeting. The governmental body is now required to conduct an open meeting, 1, to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory, the governmental body, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, or number 2, to deliberate the offer of financial or other incentives to a business prospect. This is in reference to Project E-95 and Project E-96. The time is now 8:21. We will reconvene after our closed session. The time is now 8:46, 8:47. We reconvene into a regular session after our discussion and deliberation regarding our closed session in reference to item number 14, Project E95 and Project E96. Our start time was 8:21. Our end time was 8:41. And there is resolutions for consideration. Resolution number 24R84. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an expenditure as reflected in the Economic Development Incentive Agreement between the City of Schertz Economic Development Corporation and NAI Signage Solutions Incorporated and other matters in connection therewith. Is there a motion to approve
So moved.
resolution number 24R74? Motion's been made by Councilmember Watson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second's been made by Councilmember Bacaluso. Council, any comments? If none, please cast your vote. We can publish the vote. We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. There is also a second resolution, resolution number 24R85. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an expenditure as reflected in the Economic Development Incentive Agreement between the City of Schertz Economic Development Corporation and Las Palapas Schertz and other matters in connection therewith. Council, is there a motion to approve resolution?
moved.
Second.
Have motion made by Councilmember Watson and second by Councilmember Hayward. Council, any comments? If none, if you can please cast your vote. We can publish the vote, please. We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. All right. We'll move on. Item number 16 is the monthly updates, major projects in progress, and CPI. These are information packets that were provided to council and available for public viewing at our website, schertz.com. With that, council, is there any possible updates or information requested from staff? Hearing none, is there any possible items that you'd like to place on the future agenda? Hearing none, all right. Announcements by council members. Mayor Pro Tem Gibson.
I want to thank staff for doing the extra work and putting these things together for us. Also, I would like to say I had a great time at the Northeast Orthopedics and Sports Medicine ribbon cutting. It was beautiful. What a great, beautiful clinic and area they decided to bring to our great city.
Councilmember Davis.
Nothing tonight, sir.
Councilmember Watson.
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Macaluso.
Yeah, was able to go out to the watermelon activity that they had this Saturday. And although I didn't go, or I wasn't as brave as Councilwoman Hayward, it was kind of fun dropping the watermelon down to the ground, but that was it.
Councilmember Hayward.
Yes, I did the TAMCC TML newly elected officials orientation. I got to MC it and then started getting people more involved and wanting to be involved with TML, and so being able to do that was fantastic. Attended the TML IRP board meeting, the interview committee, the pre-budget meeting, the ribbon cutting for the Northeast Orthopedics Sports Medicine in Schertz, and it was a beautiful place, and I think it's going to be a great asset to the city of Schertz. And yes, the Schertz National Watermelon Day, got to throw watermelons in the pool and see them float to the top, and I went all the way up in the ladder truck and dropped a watermelon. That was awesome. I'd do it again.
Councilmember Brown.
And folks, I just want to thank fellow council members, Mayor, Mr. Williams and staff for all the support during the trying time with my wife's funeral and the services. Thank you all for attending, those that could. And again, I appreciate everything personally.
All right. The time is now 8:51. We stand adjourned.